Hello, I'm Genie a Logee. So, what do I know? Well, this time we're tackling a subject I don't know very much about when it comes to genealogical research: Native Americans. I will be learning about this along the way, just like you. The reason we're here today is to find the truth and to help others discover their heritage, especially people who think they have Native American ancestors but are not connected with any relatives. First of all, I grew up saying Indians. Well, that sure is not right. I thought there were 10 or 15 tribes. That sure is not right. I thought if you had Indian blood, you belonged to a tribe. That most surely is not right. So, I asked Claude, my AI research assistant from Anthropic, to give me some ideas. Claude actually gave me some really concrete information about how to approach this subject and where to look for answers. I'll share that with you now. The following are excerpts from my conversation with Claude. Within each excerpt, mine or Claude's, no alteration has been made. This chat will be about Native American genealogy. I'm making a report for my YouTube channel on genealogy research. Can you tell me briefly about how many Indian nations are in the United States? And also, can you give me a brief history of migrations of people who were the ancestors of today's Native Americans?
As of 2025, there are 574 federally recognized Native American tribes and Alaska Native entities in the United States. This number has grown over the decades as additional groups have gone through the federal recognition process. Beyond federally recognized tribes, there are also hundreds of state-recognized tribes and unrecognized groups, so the total number of distinct nations and communities is even larger. Some estimates put it well over 700. The story of how people came to populate the Americas is one of the most fascinating in all of human history, and the science has evolved considerably in recent years. The most widely accepted theory holds that the ancestors of today's Native Americans originated in Siberia and Northeast Asia, and began migrating into the Americas somewhere between 15,000 and 25,000 years ago. Though some archaeological evidence suggests the timeline may be even older. During the last ice age, lower sea levels exposed a vast land bridge called Beringia, connecting modern-day Siberia to Alaska, and people gradually moved across it, likely following game animals. From there, migration southward occurred in waves over thousands of years. One major corridor opened up between the Laurentide and Cordilleran ice sheets along the eastern edge of the Rocky Mountains, allowing people to push deep into the continent. Another proposed route followed the Pacific coastline by boat, with groups hopscotching along kelp forests and coastal ecosystems. By roughly 13,000 years ago, humans had reached the southern tip of South America, an astonishing spread across 2 continents in a geologically short time. Genetic and archaeological research suggests there were likely multiple migration waves rather than a single event, with different ancestral groups contributing to the diversity of peoples who developed into the hundreds of distinct nations we know today. Over the following millennia, these populations diversified enormously, adapting to radically different environments, from Arctic tundra to desert Southwest to eastern woodlands to Great Plains, and developing the wide range of languages, cultures, and social structures that make Native American genealogy research so rich and complex.
Referring back to your comment on the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, I heard that in recent years, that theory has been disputed.
You're absolutely right to bring that up, and it's one of the most exciting areas of ongoing debate in archaeology and anthropology right now. The Bering Land Bridge theory hasn't been thrown out entirely, but it has been significantly complicated and challenged by newer evidence. The honest answer is that the scientific community is genuinely uncertain and actively debating this. Most researchers still accept that Northeast Asia and Beringia played a central role in the peopling of the Americas, but the idea that it was a single migration event at a specific time through a single corridor has largely been abandoned in favor of a more complex picture involving multiple migrations, possibly multiple routes, and a much longer timeline than previously thought. For your YouTube report, it's worth noting that genetic genealogy, DNA testing, has become an important tool in this field, though it comes with its own cultural sensitivities within Native communities.
What are those cultural sensitivities? As a non-Native American, I want to make sure I don't insult anyone. I know the traditions of oral history and stories preserve their heritage, but how does one who has a little Native American blood trace their heritage?
Tribal sovereignty over identity. Many tribes take the position that they determine who is a member of their nation, not a DNA test. The Cherokee Nation, for example, has been very vocal that genetic ancestry does not make someone Cherokee. Membership is typically based on documented lineage to historical tribal roles, not blood quantum percentages from a consumer DNA kit. So when someone says, "I'm 3% Native American according to 23andMe," many Native people find that claim problematic or even offensive because it bypasses the tribe's own authority to define its membership. A broad sensitivity that applies to anyone discussing Native Americans is avoiding the tendency to treat hundreds of distinct nations as a single monolithic culture. Each nation has its own history, language, traditions, and genealogical records. This matters a lot in genealogy research. The first and most important step is documentary research, working backwards through standard genealogical records like census records, birth and death certificates, and marriage records. You're trying to identify the specific ancestor who was native, and crucially, which nation they belonged to. Once you've identified a likely native ancestor, the key resource is the Dawes Rolls, compiled between 1898 and 1914. This was the federal government's enrollment of members of the 5 civilized tribes, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole, in what is now Oklahoma. For other nations, there are equivalent historical rolls and census records. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, and the National Archives hold enormous collections of records, including annuity rolls, treaty signers lists, and agency records going back to the early 1800s. The National Archives has a specific Native American genealogy research portal that is an excellent starting point, and many tribes have their own tribal historic preservation offices that can guide researchers respectfully.
Thank you, Claude and Anthropic, for aiming to be truthful and moral. This was really good advice. As always, if anyone has a comment about this, past or future episodes, please write to me at genie.whatdoiknow@gmail.com. Here are the websites that Claude mentioned to help with Native American research. They are legitimate and much-used sites for research and information. The Dawes Rolls, www.okhistory.org/research/Dawes. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, www.bia.gov/. The National Archives, www.archives.gov/research/native-americans/reference-reports. And one more place to look is Family Search's page on this subject. www.familysarch.org/en/wiki/native_american_online_genealogy_records. Story lady, before we go, I heard about a really wonderful connection between Native Americans and the Irish. Please tell us about it.
In 1847, though separated by an ocean, people of the Choctaw Nation heard about the potato famine in Ireland. They heard how the Irish had been mistreated by the English. The Choctaw themselves had just suffered terribly at the hands of the people who had invaded their lands and driven them to what is now called Oklahoma. The Choctaw sent over what would be $5,000 in today's money to help the starving Irish. 148 years later, in 1995, the Irish president, Mary Robinson, visited the Choctaw Nation to rekindle and reestablish the friendship and thank Choctaws for their aid to Middleton in 1847. In 2017, a sculpture known as Kindred Spirits was dedicated to the Choctaws in a park in Middleton. And that's not even the end of this beautiful story. Next time, in Episode 9, we'll learn about tracing Irish ancestry, and we'll hear about Part 2 of the story between the Irish and the Choctaw Nation.
I want to hear Part 2 now.
Not yet, Bob. Next time.
We think you get into it. It's getting the only day.